Welcome back, everybody, to the EDPF Property Academy 50-Day Property Challenge. Once again, we welcome Jared Ricketts and Tabaleng, better known as Matt L, to this session. Today, we're going to talk about Lightstone and how we can use Lightstone as a tool to understand property, understand how to invest in property, understand what those properties can offer us, and a whole range of other things. So we'll go through the Lightstone software, and we'll be able to then work out what that Lightstone software can do for us in terms of investing in property. Now, for those who are new to the 50-day challenge, yet again, just to let you know that the property challenge that we are going through at the moment, thanks to Private Property, who's our sponsor, and our two, Jared and Matt L, we are going on a journey where within 50 days, we are going to help both Jared and Matt L to invest in property within 50 days. What we'd like you to do as the public is to join us in this journey and using this methodology for you also to become a property investor. You can follow us on this journey by either subscribing to our YouTube link, as well as going onto our website, edpfpropertyacademy.com, where you can see all the videos every day as we go along this journey. And every Friday at 8:30, joining with us on Facebook with Private Property, where we wrap up what we learned that week. So today we are going to talk about Lightstone, and we're going to teach you how to use the Lightstone system. You guys ready for that? So what we're going to do, fantastic. All right, what we're going to do now, I'm going to share my screen quickly, and I'm going to open up the Lightstone app, or at least a website, so you guys can see that. All right, so basically all you have to do is go to your browser, type in lightstoneproperty.co.za, as you see up there, and then click enter, and that will open up the Lightstone website. If you want the app, you can go to your app store and you can just type in Lightstone and open up the Lightstone app on your app store, whether you have an Android phone or an iPhone or a Huawei, it doesn't matter. The Lightstone app you will be able to find there. But I like to use the website because there's a lot bigger space in terms of my screen, and also there's a lot more advanced features that I can use on the website. So once you have registered, so if for those of you who are not registered, you click on the sign up button. You then fill in all the details, you sign up, and once you become a member of Lightstone, once you've registered, you can then use the Lightstone package. Now, Lightstone does cost money. I think, if I'm not mistaken, and I do speak under correction, it's just over about 100 Rand a month. And you can get all sorts of reports from that Lightstone login. But if you were the EDPF Property Academy, you get the Lightstone system for free. So if you want the Lightstone system for free, join the EDPF Property Academy. And whether you are on the gold or platinum package, it doesn't matter, you get Lightstone for free. So once you've clicked on login, put in your email address and your password, you log in, then you have to agree to the POPIA agreement system that they have, and then you are then open to use anything within the South African environment. You can use Lightstone to go and view any property and all the information you want about that property. So if you've got an earth number or you have a street address, you can then go and look at that property on Lightstone and find out all sorts of things. So the very basic one that you want to use, and what we're going to talk about today, is the property report. So you can get a property report, you can get a suburb report, you can get a transfer report, owners in a complex report. So if you want to buy in a complex where there's 100 properties in the complex, you can find out who all the owners are in that complex. You can find out who the owners are in a street. So there's the owners in a street report. You can find out about any estate that is in the South African environment. There's all sorts of reports that you can get from Lightstone. Now, why do we want to use Lightstone? Because Lightstone is one of those systems that basically will tell you everything you need to know about any property anywhere in South Africa. So I'm just going to go to the property report. I'm going to enter any property address, and it will tell me who owns that property, what the bond is on that property, what the last couple of sales, the sales prices have been, what the municipal value is, and a whole host of other information, zoning, rights, etc. So as an investor, when you want to invest in property, all these things that you can get from the Lightstone report are the things that you need to know about that property. So for example, if you want to know how far the property is from a shopping center, from schools, from a university, etc., because you want to invest in a property for that particular purpose. So let's say you want to invest in property and you want to rent it out to families or to a family who has children that are school-going children. You want to know that the property that you're buying is close enough to schools, good schools, that that family maybe wants to be in. Or if it is for student accommodation, you want to know that it is in close proximity to the university that those students want to go to. So that's what this kind of report will give you. It will tell you all of that information. So if I type in any address, in any property, so any suburb, so I'll put in Jared, give me an area, just think of an area.
Goodness, Kope.
Kope, okay, so let's look at Kope. Now, it will pop up with a thing that says there's a couple of options, maybe Kope, City of Cape Town, Kope, Joburg, but in this case, there's only Kope. Okay, so then I need to think of a street in Kope. So let's just call it Main. All right, there's Main Road, Kope. Boom, there it is. Now I want a street number, and let's say there's number 25. And then I click search. It's as simple as that. Now, unfortunately, there is no number 25 Main Road, Kope. So let's look at number 1 maybe. Search, all right?
The city of one.
Okay, so there you'll see at the bottom, something has popped up. FHWC, so that's Western Cape, City of Cape Town, Township, the earth number. If it's broken up into different portions, it will have a portion number. The owner or the seller, in this case, fortunately for us, so that we don't have any popular issues, it's actually owned by the municipality of Cape Town. So thanks, Jared, for choosing that one. That's fantastic. The suburb is Kope, the address is number 1 Main Road, and the postal code is 7975. So if I want the report to see what's the property and all the information about it, I can then click on the view button. Okay. What it will then do, it will pull up all of the information about that property. It will pull up some imagery. It will pull up, it will tell you who owns it, where it is. So in this case, the property type is freehold. What does that mean? It means that basically, you know, you can do basically anything on the property, but then within that, you've got zoning, special zoning rights and so on. Which province it's in, the township, the portion number, the suburb, and so on. Now, what it will also tell you is the size of the land. In this case, 106 square meters. Land size, cadastral, so that's a different land size, is 105. So there's a 1 square meter. That's normally, there's normally a difference of anywhere between 1 and 10 square meters there. Legal description, it's earth number 89665, Cape Town, City of Cape. Now, that is very important. When you put in your offer to purchase, you can't just put in the address of a property. You need to actually put the legal description of the property. So that's the first benefit of the Lightstone report. It gives you the legal description. So if you've got the address, then you can find the legal description of that property that you want to purchase, and that's where you find it. Earth number so-and-so, and the City of Cape Town, etc. It will tell you which municipality it's in, the earth number, the road number. Okay. Last sale price, in this case, fortunately for us, it's owned by the city of Cape Town, so not recorded in the deeds registry because nobody's ever owned it except the city of Cape Town. Now, if this had been owned by a private individual, the last sales price would have been there. So let's say this property last sale price was 500,000 Rand. That would have been shown as the last sales price. And that information would have come from the deeds office. So what Lightstone does is they pull all the information from the municipality, from the deeds office, from all sorts of different platforms into one single report so that you can have a bird's eye view of that property. And you can then get all the information. The other information they'll pull, which won't be in this one, is the information from the bank. So here, for example, it will ask you, it will tell you the owner details. In this case, it's the municipality of Cape Town. The title deed number, and that then will allow you, when you want to see the title deed, and let's say the owner does not have, the seller does not have the title deed, you can then go to the deeds office and then ask them for the title deed, a copy of the title deed, and then you pay, I think it's like 11 Rand or something, I don't know what the number is, but you then pay the deeds office, you give them the title deed number, and they will then pull the title deed register so you can see who actually owns the property. Now, why is that important? Now, we spoke about this maybe last week, I think, when we spoke with Mayor Naval. And one of the important things when you're buying a property is that you need to make sure that the person you're buying the property from is actually the owner of the property. Because I have in many occasions, and I think I may have mentioned this last week, where I've had somebody come to me and say, listen, Nigel, I bought this property. I've paid over 100,000. In one case, the person came to me and said, I paid R1 million in cash to the seller. It is a year later, I still don't have the title deed. And I've gone to the property, I've knocked on the door and I've said, this is my property. What are you doing here? I want my keys. And the person said, what are you talking about? I don't know you. Because it was a scam. The person who sold him the property didn't actually own the property. So in order for you to know that the seller actually owns the property, you can look at the title deed, and you need the title deed number. And that's what you can get from this report. Now, in the Lightstone report, it will actually tell you who the owner is, but it won't allow you to pull the title deed. You need that title deed number, and then you can get that from the from the deeds office. Okay, but that is important if you want to know who owns the property. What else it will give you? It will give you a street view. It sometimes takes a while to pull up, but let me just try and get the image there for you. You can get a street view of the property, but as I said, the network's bad today, so it's not picking up the street view, but you can get the street view there. You can get the comparative analysis in that area of other properties that have sold over the last couple of years. You can find out which other properties have sold, what the selling price has been, and compare that property to those other properties that have sold. So for example, number 3 Lever Road in Kalk Bay sold for 7.25 million. The last selling date was the 22nd of the 1st, 2021. And the square meterage was only 50 square meters more than the one that we're now looking at. Okay, but it sold for 7.25 million Rand. That is 45,886 Rand per square meter. So this is the kind of information that you can get comparatively on the property that you're looking at, comparing to all the other properties in the area sold over the last, say, 24 or 48 months. Then the other information that you can get, comparative valuation. Comparative average sales price, you can see it there, is 6.5 million Rand for this piece of land of 100 odd square meters. So clearly, this area is valuable. And from a market perspective, this is the kind of area you want to invest in if you can find a good deal. Other things you can find, the municipal valuation. Currently, it's 150,000 Rand only because it's owned by the municipality. They obviously don't want to pay themselves a lot of money. So they valued the property at 150,000. But if it had been privately owned, it would probably be sitting at about 4.5, 5 million Rand. Because then obviously the municipality would get some good rates and taxes out of it. But you can see the municipal value of any property using this report. Okay. Usage category, infrastructure. So clearly for the municipality, they want to use this for infrastructure development. What that means to them, only they know. But in other instances, it could be for student accommodation, it could be for housing development, it could be for commercial office, retail, residential, whatever. So usage could be categorized in a whole range of different things. The last year valuation it will give you, in this case 2015, normally municipalities value things every 3 years, they value properties, and that will then determine the rates and taxes that you pay. Estimated monthly rates, in this case 18 Rand, because it's only valued at 150,000 Rand in their books. But obviously if it was 1.5 million, you'd be paying what's that, 180 Rand or 1,800 Rand, whatever the number is. If it was 4.5 million, you'd pay 3 times that, and it's on a sliding scale obviously, but you'll be able to see here what the estimated monthly rates are. Why is that important? Because that's part of your expenses when you buy the property. So if the seller tells you that they're only paying 2 Rand, but this report tells you that it's actually 18 Rand, you know, then obviously the seller's lying to you because they don't want you to know how much they're paying in their expenses, so that you think that it's a higher value. Okay, so that's some of that information. So it will also tell you whether there's a sale in execution happening. It will tell you the bond details. Obviously, in this case, there's 0 bond because it's owned by the bank. It's owned by the municipality, sorry. However, if this was owned by an individual, then the bond details would be here for the last couple of bonds. So let's say it was Standard Bank, Absa Bank, or Nedbank. The bond details would be here. Who the bank is that the bond is with, and how much is currently still outstanding. It will also tell you how much the property was bought for, what the current bond is, what the original bond was, so that you can get an idea of what the current owner is looking at in terms of that particular property when they're wanting to sell. So that it also gives you an idea to say, if I'm going to buy this property and the seller is in a financial difficulty, I have room to negotiate. Obviously, you don't want to rip them off, but you have room then to negotiate, to say, you want 5 million, your bond is 2 million, you've got 3 million that you can then negotiate with that seller in terms of getting a nice price that will both benefit you as the buyer, because you always want to buy below market value, so that if you need to exit at any stage, you know that you're going to make a profit. But you're also benefiting the seller because he or she is now getting out of the deal, having to pay that bond back, but they are in a bit of a state.
Cool.
All right, so as you can see there, the bond details, that, like I said, gives you all of the bond information. But in this case, obviously, there's nothing because the municipality doesn't have a bond, but it will be able to then allow you to do that negotiation between what is owing on the bond by that owner and what they are trying to sell for, and you've then got that room to negotiate with the seller. Now, that's very important, because if you are trying to negotiate to be able to get the deal below market value, you need to know what that threshold is for the seller. And the threshold is normally what they owe in their bond and what they ultimately want to sell the property for. Normally, sellers want more than what the market actually is, available, what the market value is of a property at any given stage, because sellers are emotional. They have been emotionally attached to that property for a while. They've lived in the property, and for them, that property is worth something much greater than what the market dictates, because from a market perspective, it's more about demand. Who is looking to buy? And the buyer normally has the power. Unless, of course, it's a massive seller's market and there's very little stock on the market. That's a different story. But mostly it's a buyer's market. And sellers then normally want to ask for more than what they can actually get in the market, the current market. So at least this information will give you that guidance in terms of whether what the seller is asking for is reasonable or not, and whether the market value is good enough and whether you can buy at that price. But you must always try and negotiate below the market value. But this will then give you that guidance in terms of what that negotiable threshold is. Okay. The other information that will tell you whether there's any endorsements on the title deed. What is endorsement? So let's say, for example, there's an endorsement that in the past, somebody owned maybe this property and the property next door, and collectively they put an endorsement on the title deed that the one property can't be sold without the other. Literally, it can be anything. That somebody or someone, an institution, a bank, the municipality, the government, anybody could put an endorsement into a property for a particular reason. So you need to understand what endorsements are on that property, because if you don't, and let's say there's, for example, the government has a claim on the land because of whatever, some dam that they want to build. So let's think of something stupid. So they want to build a dam, and that within the title deed, they've put a clause that says, here's an endorsement that says when the municipality requires this land, they will take back this land at a particular price or a negotiated price at the time, because at some time in the future, the municipality is going to build a dam here. So it can literally be anything that is in the title deed that you need to be aware of. So always look at this document first to see whether there are any endorsements, any servitudes. I remember at one time there was a deal that we were looking at, and the property was already purchased. It was already too late, basically. And the person didn't look at the servitudes that were on the documentation of the property. And what the property, if my memory serves, was 6,000 square meters, and 2,000 square meters of the land, there was a servitude that in the future dated time, the municipality would be able to take back that 2,000 square meters to build a road at no cost to the municipality. But by this time, it was too late, because the person had already purchased the property. And they didn't look at these documents, and they didn't look at the title deed to see if there were any endorsements or servitudes and so on and so forth. So fortunately, after a couple of months of legal wrangle this way and that way, they eventually got their money back, and the land was transferred back to the previous owner, because the previous owner knew about the servitude and did not disclose it. And they could prove it, and therefore they got their money back. But if you can't prove that the owner knew about this before you purchase the property, you may end up in a scenario like that, where you've got the 6,000 square meter property, but 2,000 of it you can't use because there's a road that's going to be built sometime in the future. And in fact, in this particular instance, the house was actually built partially on the land of this 2,000 squares. So when the time eventually would come, they would have to actually break down the house, or that portion of the house, so that the road could be built. So you need to be careful about endorsements, about servitudes, and this report will give you all of that. Then obviously the title deeds and all the other documentation that you need to get when you do your due diligence, which we spoke about already. Those things you need to understand in order to know what you are buying, that you're not buying something that doesn't exist, or buying from somebody that doesn't actually own the property, etc., etc. The next thing that you learn from this report is the transfer history. You will be able to see over the last 10 years or 20 years or whatever the case may be, who owned the property in the past. And the benefit of that, sometimes you'll look at it and say, I know that name, and it's not a name that I'd like to be associated with. That it was some drug lord or some apartheid era enforcer, or so, and you think to yourself, I don't actually want to be associated with that particular property. And then that will help you to understand that kind of thing. Or it will say, oh, actually, I want to be associated with this property because that particular person owned it in the past. And because of that, the property is actually more valuable. So that kind of transfer history will give you that kind of information. The street transfer history, obviously, that will give you in a couple of years past which properties in that street were sold. In this particular instance, there were 3 properties sold in the last year. And the average value, while the one value was almost 2 million rand there. In fact, this looks like it could be, no, it's 2 properties, but they don't give you the purchase price of the other one. I don't know why they're not giving the purchase price, but it's not there. Normally, you get the purchase price in the street view history, street transfer history, and that will tell you in that particular street, not the suburb as a whole, which was the earlier report, but it will tell you in that particular street which properties have been sold in the last, say, 12 or 24 months. Okay, so that's already a lot of information to help you make an investment decision about this property. But there's more. You know, those ads that say, and that's not all you can get, you know, this is the kind of thing that you get from this type of report. There's just so much information that an investor can get from this type of report. The next one is the suburb trends. In Cork Bay, the median price they'll give you all sorts of things, number of transfers. So in this case, the green is sectional title. The freehold, which is individual houses with their own earth, that it's not in a block of flats or in a complex. That's freehold, that's a light blue. And then the dark blue is vacant land. So over the last, 10 years now, from 2012 to 2022, you can see what the median selling price was for sectional schemes, which is 2.1 million in 2012, 2 million in 2013, 1.9 in 2014, 3 million in 2015. At the peak of the Cork Bay area in 2018, the median on sectional title properties was 4.3 million rand. On freehold was 6 million rand. So you can sort of see what the pricing was over the last 10 years of properties in the area. Then you also get the number of transfers. Why is that important? Because you can see the trends of buying and selling them. To see how many properties are selling, how often are they selling, whether there's a problem, whether a lot of people are selling or whether it's a few people. If it's only a few people selling, what that means is that people are holding onto their property because they believe there's value in it. And therefore, there's greater demand in the property in that suburb. If a lot of properties are selling in a short period of time, that means everybody's selling to get rid of their property because they want to get out of the area. But then you also need to look at the area and say, was that a peak time in terms of pricing? Was it a good time to get out because people are making good money there? Versus whether people are getting out because it's a bad suburb. You always have to look at that kind of history of that suburb as well. So those are some of the trends that you'll be able to look at, the pricing over the last 10 years and the number of transfers over the last 10 years. Then on top of that, you also have amenities. What amenities are within a kilometer, 2 kilometers, 5 kilometer radius and so on. So there's a beach, there's Vishoekstrand there, there's Neptune's Corner, there's a Caltex garage, two BP garages, there's a Medicross, a Melomed, there's a couple of other things. So there's a police station, there's a convent primary school, there's a Bay Primary School, St. James RC Primary School, there's a shopping center, and there's a FET College. So that'll then be able to, you'll be able to then understand what type of people will come and live here. So people with small children for primary school, and also for people who want to go to an FET college. the FET College, False Bay. So those are the kind of people that will want to buy or rent in this particular area. And then also because it's close to the beach, you'll obviously have holiday makers and so on that will also come and rent either on an Airbnb basis and so on. So now you can see how important a system like Lightstone is in terms of your investment strategy. If you want to invest in property and you want to understand the history, both the transfer history and the number of properties sold, etc., this is the kind of report that you want to pull in order to understand whether it's worth investing in that area. Now, the other thing we're going to talk about at a later stage, possibly this week still, we will talk about TPN. Now, TPN is another such system, but TPN you use if you want to talk and look at rental properties and what type of rental properties are good to invest in. And that's what the TPN reports will give you. So we'll talk about that at a later stage. For this is about purchasing property and valuations, what the type of people are that are there, what kind of amenities, etc., and those are the kinds of things that you can get from the Lightstone report. All right, so I've spoken a lot, guys. Are there any questions, any comments, things that you'd like to know about this particular type of report that you can get?
I don't have a question. I think it's just cool that you're able to get that much information out of the property, and it's still something you take for granted, as you've mentioned in the examples. You just take it at face value that someone's selling a property, and you're going to buy from them, and that's how it works. But clearly, so many things to take into consideration, and that also helps you understand the potential of the property and how you can use it within your portfolio. So that's quite cool and useful that you can get all of that information out of the website. But also, I think it's just important for everyone watching to know that there are scammers out there. I mean, I think this week or last week, I read about an article where a couple thought they were buying a house as well. They paid the money, and just to discover that actually they don't own anything. Someone just disappeared with the cash. And so, because these are still challenging and difficult times, there are a lot more scammers, I think, than they used to be. And so it's really good to know that these like Lightstone, they're there to help you. They're able to really understand what you're buying, who you're buying from.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think one of the things also, it's, people always say, real estate agents, they don't want to work with real estate agents because, why am I paying you 7.5% commission or 3.5% sometimes? There's always a range that you can negotiate with them. But I think these kinds of things are valuable because if you personally do not have a Lightstone account, how are you going to get this information? So you don't want to register just because you want to buy one property. So you can ask your estate agent to give you this type of report so that you can understand all the nuances of that particular investment opportunity. So real estate agents are very valuable where that's concerned. They can also help you in terms of making sure that the owner the seller is the owner. To make sure that you then will be able to buy a property legitimately and not part of money, like you just said now, a part of money that you then never get back again. So it's so important that you have professionals, a team of professionals that will assist you. And I mean, we'll talk about all of those things as we go along. We'll bring some real estate agents in to talk about what their offering is. And we'll talk about more in depth again. We're going to talk about TPN and so on. Matal, you want to say something or comment or question?
I think it's a really nice platform to have, especially for selling price, because if I can then see the medium of, the properties in that area, how much they've been selling for, it also puts me in a better position to be able to negotiate. Maybe the seller is wanting 450, but then if I go into Lightstone and I can see in the past year or two, properties have been selling for 400, it also puts me in a better position for negotiation, And I think also something important, this actually happened to my parents. when they bought our previous family home, the guy had actually erected like a whole entertainment area, which was off plan. And the estate agent also didn't make mention of that. It was only when my parents wanted to sell the house and they got the house plans that they saw that that was actually never part of the original structure. So I think also with Lightstone, the fact that you get to actually see, I know the network couldn't show us now, but you actually get to see the property on the land. You'd also have an indication of what's actually there, what should be on plan, because even an agent sometimes can be dodgy.
Yeah. Because they just put nothing on the sale.
Yeah, that's for sure.
They didn't say.
Yeah, you
know
could,
what,
I mean, yeah, sorry, Jared, yeah.
Matt, I know someone who had a similar experience. They purchased a house, and like a year later, the floor, there was like water. They could see water pushing up, and they're like, why is the concrete wet? And they dug up the floor in the lounge, only to find that the lounge was built on top of a manhole. And they were not informed. And so the whole house was, because now they had to destroy the whole lounge because it was built on top of something that's like for sewerage, you know? So it's important, like what you're saying, to get the plans as well.
Yes, get the plans, but Lightstone is great. Just helps with your own due diligence.
No, for sure. Listen, there's a lot of things that you need to do in terms of your due diligence. And Lightstone is just one of those things where you pull that report and it gives you the basic information. Then you obviously need to get the approved plans, because another thing, often people will build a house and they don't care about the approved plans, and they build on an extra room. Now you get you buy the property, you don't ask for the approved plan, so you can't compare what's physically there to what has been approved by the municipality. So you buy the property, and then you get a knock on the door. It's a municipal inspector. They believe that you've now purchased this property, and there's an extra room here that actually doesn't belong. Here's the approved plans. That room doesn't belong. Please demolish. And you have to, because the municipality didn't approve it. So that's another part of your due diligence that you have to do. Get the approved plans. Now that you can't get from Lightstone, that you have to get from the municipality. So those are the things that you have to do in your due diligence. Lightstone is there specifically for your initial feasibility, the financial viability, to say, am I buying from the right person? Am I buying for the right price? And what is the sort of range that I can negotiate in? And then on top of that, am I buying for the right type of tenant? And those are the kinds of things that you want to make sure that you have within your sort of arsenal, so to speak, when you go and negotiate for that property. All right. So, okay, guys. All right. That's it for today's session. Thank you again for joining us, Matt Al and Jared Ricketts, on this 50-day property challenge. Thank you to the public for joining us and joining us on this this challenge yourselves. We hope that we have been greatly useful to you to be able to get involved in your own property portfolio and to use this methodology to purchase your first property. So guys, thank you very much again. We'll see you again tomorrow. This is Nigel Adriaanse from the EDPF Property Academy, Jared Ricketts and Matt Al signing off, and we'll see you again tomorrow.